It'd be nice if I take the flyer down. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name is James Jimmy Hills. I'm the host of Java with Jimmy. Java with Jimmy. I can talk tonight. I'm tired, y'all. I'll be very honest with you. We are here this evening to be very honest. Some of you are aware and observed that there was a youth job fair this past Saturday, and there was an incident, and there was a lot of chatter in reference to city planning, the mayor's office, who planned it, street workers, a lot. And so I thought it was most important. The mayor will be with us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. But I thought it was important for the community again to get to hear from Dr. Issac Yablo, who is the mayor's senior advisor for community safety. There is a lot the mayor has talked on here about an Office of Community Safety. There's his position as a senior advisor. But all in all, this young man has the responsibility for advising our mayor around not just a space and area that you know is passionate to me, or I'm passionate about youth and gun safety, but all the safety, domestic violence, youth, child abuse and things like that. And so we're going to talk with Dr. Issac Yablo. It is after 5. He is in his chill attire, but because of his role, he's always, as Brother DL says, on cold as a official. But we're going to hear from him a little bit about him, how he got to this position, and also a little bit of clarity about just city events. But we're going to talk about resources, what his office does, if his services are directly available or through partnerships, does he help garner resources? And so without further ado, he's not a stranger to the Java Cafe. We actually first met him when he was a part of Street Workers / SOAR. Then I think he was on with us when he was part of the Black Men and Boys Advancement Office. And then as of February 3rd or 4th of 2023, he became the senior advisor for community safety. And so, Doctor, first of all, I was messing with you about all the black and stuff, and here I am. I don't even have my background set up right. Let's get this together. Okay, Dr. Yablo, well, it is after dark. I guess let's go with this one. Is that a little too busy?
That's perfect.
That's
I like it.
No, it's not, because people are going to be in the comments about my eyes. Dr. Yablo, first of all, thank you. Maybe 24 Sunday, this conversation started of, hey, Dr. Yablo, would you just come address this, but then also give some clarity to community about what your office does. So I'll worry about the background and all of that later. Mm-hmm. We're just going to go with this. Please introduce yourself, say good evening to the folks, and I want to put you on the spot. Describe community safety in one word. So intro, hello, community safety in one word, sir.
Yes, good evening, good people. It's good to be with you. And James, thank you for creating space for me. Issac Yablo, Senior Advisor to Mayor Wu, focused on community safety. And what the community safety team does is we work to convene and coordinate internal city departments and community stakeholders to increase safety. And what safety is like you said, James, is all inclusive. It's the quality of the parks, it's the lighting, it's traffic patterns, it's obviously trying to work to reduce community violence. But the idea of safety is really just us all feeling comfortable in the communities that we reside in. And then if I had to just describe it in like one word, collaborative. That's if I had to choose one, it would be collaborative because as I believe it's Thomas Apta said, violence prevention is a team sport, and if you're not on the same team, you can't win. So it has to be collaborative.
It definitely is, and I'm thinking real time, and this is
real time.
This is something, well, in real time as far as the collaboration, but then also in real time, I'm just thinking you and I have not chat publicly since the transition of who is now an ancestor, our brother Leroy Bum People. So I wanted just to allow you the opportunity, because that was one of his tenets and one of the pillars around collaboration. So I wanted to offer you that as well.
Yeah, and thank you. I mean, obviously Leroy was more than impactful in this work, was in the work for going probably 20 plus years, right? And like many of the other wonderful folk in community that you and I both deal with, Mario, Milton, these brothers that have once lived a life and have transitioned out. Um, he was one of the earlier ones to do that, and so yeah, we miss him every day. And I don't want to speak too much because I didn't get consent from family, but you know,
Absolutely.
it's all love and all respect. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, Dr. Yablo, you may know her, my aunt, Nika, who benefited from the event on Saturday. My
Hmm.
godson, nephew, cousin
Hmm.
got an assignment and a job, but she said going to need him to speed up a little bit more about you. And so we mentioned that you were part of SOAR and whatnot. Just where you're comfortable, just
Yeah,
a
sure.
little bit about you because I know your commitment, to the space. I've fussed and all this other stuff, but at the end of the day, you still here and
Yeah, yeah.
so just a little bit about you and what drives you sir to um stay here and do this because it's not easy being in this space in municipality. And I'll just own that there have been some times where I have not made it easy for you. So Dr.
It's all love, brother.
Be
It's
real.
all
It's
love.
it's after dark, so I want to be real. But just a little bit about you, where you're comfortable. We just want to acknowledge the officials that are in the room. Commissioner James Mackey, along with some others, and so Milton's in the room as well. So, sir, just a little bit about you, where you're comfortable sharing.
Absolutely. So yeah, I was born and raised in Cambridge, in a neighborhood called the Port. At the time when I was growing up, it was just Area 4, but we all called it the Port, and now it's called the Port formerly. I went to Ringe. For those of you that are familiar with Cambridge, when I graduated from Cambridge Ringe in Latin. I went off to Washington D.C. to do my undergrad. I graduated from Howard University in 2016, and
How
I came.
I never knew you graduated all this time. I never knew you graduated from Howard.
There's a lot of Morehouse dudes walking around City Hall, and sometimes I get grouped in with them, but it's Howard Strong, the real HU. So no, but I came back after I did my undergrad, um, and and started grad school. So I started a PhD program at UMass Boston. But like many kids that graduate from college, I had no idea what I really wanted to do with my life. So I decided to go to grad school because it was like, okay, this will give me a few more years to figure out whatever I want to do. But before I started my grad program, I worked a summer back in Cambridge at a program called Y to Y. Now, for those of you that are familiar, Boston is leading the nation in many things, including response to this issue, but the youth that are experiencing homelessness in and around the Boston area, something that I was always passionate about. So when I graduated from undergrad, the job that I had for the summer prior to starting my grad program is working at a youth-led shelter in Harvard Square. And I think that's really what opened, not I don't say opened my eyes, because a lot of the people that were experiencing homelessness at the time that were residents of the shelter, I knew from growing up in the community, right? And so what was more eye-opening for me, I guess you could say, was the fact that most of the people that were in that space had made one bad decision, and that's what led them to the situation that they were in. And so I kind of just I got this passion of being like, this could be anyone at any time. And um, that led me to being an intern at Mass Housing, and I turned 26 and I had to get my own health insurance. So I was like, what do I do? Let me look at the city job site and see what's available. And at the time, SOAR, the street worker program, had recently onboarded Talia, and had undergone that transition from the street workers to SOAR. So um, me being a kid that I was never involved myself, which is growing up around the life. I always knew that another passion of mine was helping individuals that were involved in that world. So um, combining my academic research and my professional and personal interests, I ended up at the street worker program. And my job there, I was not a street worker; I was the data person. So
I remember.
I worked with the outreach workers and the resource coordinators to ensure that we were actually telling the appropriate story, because as Leroy would say, and other good brothers, Vidal and Davo, other good brothers that know about this work, there's so much that can't be documented in a traditional way. And so it was really my job to tell the story of the outreach workers, the time that was spent in the community, the relationships that were built with young people. And I took, and I still take pride in my role as a member of the team because I think essentially, among other things, what I did was helped folks to understand the value of data, not so much as a mechanism to protect yourself and try to avoid being fired, but more to actually tell the story of the people and the peoples that you're working with. So that's how I ended up at SOAR. Then I went to Blackmail Advancement upon
Mhm.
that program shutting down, and then I assumed a role in the mayor's office after doing a year with Blackmail Advancement and helping Frank to set up the commission and everything. So that's how I ended up here. And I really one of the things that was appealing to me when I took the position was it's really focused a lot on community, and that's where my heart is. And so I've just been able to use the position to leverage and build relationships with really important people, some that are in the chat and some that aren't, that are doing really impactful things.
We're just gonna check in. I hopefully Nika that answered your question in getting to know Dr. Yablo a little bit more. And we won't get into the naming of folks like we usually do, but you know, Milton and some others that move in this space and who you've worked with. If I see them, I'm going to mention them. And so Dr. Yablo, let's come in and I do this with the mayor, so I'm going to do it with you. A few
Sure.
minutes on sort of the elephant in the room in reference to sort of, and you can address this how you would like in what
Yeah.
your office does, what it doesn't do, how it's consulted. There was a lot of chatter in reference to, you know, the mayor's fault and I've done it. I've you know, city issue
Mhm.
Marty, city issue Kim, city issue Menino, some stuff with
Mhm.
Michelle, you know, as well. And so, can you? I'm going to put a big task in front of you. The elephant in the room, as far as
What
jurisdiction.
happened?
What?
Uh,
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead,
The
Doctor.
breakdown.
Go.
Yeah. So we could just be, you know how it is. So I think so. Just to answer your first question about like what the community safety team does. So again, I'm the senior advisor, so I advise the mayor on all things that has to do with community safety. I like to say I try to be present in space before the cops come and once they leave. Right. That's what my role is. And in the event that we need to blend public health and public safety for any approach, I serve as the buffer between those spaces so that we keep both spaces separate and protected because we don't want our public health individuals having to answer to law enforcement and vice versa, right?
And can we
So
clarify one thing that
yeah,
because of Dr. Petro Stiff's work, I was part of the Menino administration when this happened. Trauma went out and is now considered a public health issue. So that is one area that does conflate as much as you keep
right.
things separate. That's one of those that. So I just because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
hope
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I want to use an opportunity so community really knows what this
Of
office
course.
does, what it and you know you're going to get unsolicited comments and opinions and suggestions anyway. So go ahead, sir.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess the easiest way to describe it, high level, what this office does is build a long-term violence prevention plan that looks to address root causes of the violence that we're seeing in Boston. I think we can all agree that poverty is the root cause. It's not because, yeah, it's poverty. That's what the root cause. So we work long-term behind the scenes to build a plan that we call our plan to end violence. That's what we're working on, which is essentially a very long-term violence prevention plan that is a consortium of different strategic investments that aim to address root causes of the violence, right? An example being intergenerational healing spaces. We need spaces that are allocated in community specifically for healing across generations, right? We do not want to isolate because we understand that trauma impacts everyone.
Yep.
So that's just an example. Another example would be investing in our program Youth Options Unlimited, right? Ensuring that the program that we have as a city internally that we control that employs youth that are involved with the criminal legal system, right? The only program that we have as a city that employs those youth. We need to ensure, not to say that we have a growing issue, but we need to ensure that the individuals that are systems involved have that adequate support, and therefore that program needs to be supported, right? So it's long term stuff like that, but also in the immediate, in the event that there is a situation. Um, it's after dark, so we can just be real. When
Yep.
someone is shot, when
Yep.
someone is stabbed, when there's a homicide, I am personally deploying to the scene. So I'm going to the scene to try to figure out how I can be most helpful to the family and families impacted by the violence. And I also work in tandem with our health commission. So in the case of a homicide scene, it would be Donald Osgood and the Community Healing Response Network, formerly known as the Neighborhood Trauma Teams. In the event that there is a persistent proven risk individual, it's working with Roy Martin in the Life Course Unit. In the event that we need to do some deep community engagement, violence prevention work, it's working with Sukia Akiba and violence intervention and prevention, our Village in Progress program, right? So there's high level, long term policy, strategic investments with the goal of eradicating poverty, thereby eradicating the violence. And then there's in real time what happens. We have to be able to respond. And then in the event that our team is consulted, we offer strategic advice to other departments for things that they have going on. An example of that would be Pedro Cruz and Oh Yeah just had an amazing Mayor's Youth Summit. We had conversations to ensure that things were, you know, I'll just be frank. There's certain times where, and not specifically in this case, but in other cases where a community partner might be having an event, but they may not have a relationship with law enforcement. I'm usually the one that can broker a detail for an event, or if you need police presence for something, I can call. So I try to serve as like the middleman,
Hmm.
middle individual between people in departments in the event that they feel that community safety needs to be consulted. And then high level, and sorry for rambling, I just want to get
No,
it
no,
all
no, no,
out, but high
because
level,
this is good.
yep. Yep, and high level for events like Juve, for events like the carnival, different parades. Usually, there's coordination between myself, representing the community safety team, the Boston Police Department, Boston EMS, Boston Fire, and then our emergency preparedness department led by Chief Adrian Jordan, just to make sure that all the high level public and community safety folks, and I make that distinction, and we can get into that if we need to, but that distinction between the public and the community safety folks, we're all on the same page.
Thank you for that. And so
Yeah.
we were going to be frank with the elephant in the room, with the understanding of what your office does. There,
Yep.
my thing, well, I'll be honest, I typed LER and then I said, oh shoot. And then I hit you because I heard the helicopters. I'm up the
Hmm.
street from B2. And so I'm like, WTF. And
Hmm.
so there was a youth job fair for
Yep.
about 6 hours, 4 hours. It went very well. Wherewith you can, my understanding that it was a culmination of social media beef with
A
some
few
young.
things, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So I think so I'll just give you what I got, right? So,
yep,
obviously, let's just dispel the rumors. No one was stabbed, no one was shot, no one
yep.
was seriously injured. Just want to make that very clear. But on the flip side of it, there were multiple altercations, right? So there was
Okay.
an altercation that stemmed because of a social media post, and that was one altercation. And then there was another altercation that was connected to that altercation, but was kind of like a carryover. It was The situation was that a bunch of small altercations happening within this large space all at the same time.
Yep.
And then someone expressed something out loud that caused mass hysteria. And that's what really set it over the top. And that's why I wanted to be very clear about dispelling whether there was a gun or a knife. I think that's rightfully so. If individuals feel as though there is a legitimate danger, that's the reaction, right? And it's not a crazy reaction at all. Um, but to your point, uh, this was one of the most well attended. events. This is not the first time this event has happened. It's been going on for over 10 years, usually without any issue. And I, with full respect and taking accountability, on behalf of the city, not necessarily me, just the entire city and taking accountability, right? I also, just being real, I didn't appreciate some of the framing that came from media. And I think part of that comes from a lack of understanding of what's going on, right? Like if you weren't there, then you didn't really. But I think what happens is if the truth isn't really told, then, and it's been stated, no one cares about the truth if the lie is more entertaining. Like that, it just is what it is, and it kind of got exacerbated. So uh, no one got seriously hurt. Growing up in a public school setting, I've seen things like that happen. You never want it to happen, and of course, we have to make appropriate changes because this did happen, right? And that's just, it is what it is.
So I hate and then I like when my guests, because one of my questions were in real time,
Yeah.
was that, is there now some consideration, given that in the times that we're in, post COVID, social skills, there's Dr. Yablo, also the piece, and I don't know where we can get this resource from, but there was some chatter
Mhm,
about parents, responsibility and what age. I don't know if this incident
mhm,
now has informed you all to say, if your child is 15 and under, we want them to be accompanied by a parent. There was some other suggestions, that, if you encourage a certain type of dress, right, wrong, indifferent, if you come in with
yep,
let's just be,
yep,
and I said that this morning, Dr. Yablo, some of fights, and it's not right, but some of the behavior and beefs, and you said this and none of it on social media, this is typical adolescent behavior. It's not right,
yeah,
but I thank you
right,
for dispelling.
right.
And I will publicly say, a supervisor got a text and I was informed there was a stabbing. I posted, check on your, and then I further clarified when you gave the clarity. But to your point, that's one of the reasons why I reached out this evening, is for people, one, to just learn about the office, but two, legacy mainstream media, these type of narratives, they unfortunately sell. They unfortunately give a false narrative about our community. And so I wasn't even going to go there in that piece, but thank you for raising. I knew internally that I wanted the clarity for community, but thank you for,
Mhm.
I didn't know that the narrative had kind of bugged you the way you said, it just did. And so,
Yeah, I mean, like I get, it triggers me a little bit about framing of two things. One, a bunch of youth of color from the inner city. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is criminalizing normal juvenile behavior. That is not acceptable behavior by any stretch. I'm not okay with brawls and fights happening. I'm not saying that. But what I'm also not okay with is acting as if that is not what kids do. This is what kids do. I don't want to go too, because again,
right, right,
I
right.
want to stress to the viewers, and
We may have
I
to
want to
make
stress
this
to
a
everyone in
series,
the
Diablo.
but to everyone in the Java Cafe, it's just I don't want to make it seem like I'm copping a plea at all. That's not what I'm
Yeah.
doing. We can't, what we're not going to do is, when we're talking about black and brown youth from Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, Hyde Park, JP, Charlestown, and parts of South Boston, we're not going to do that, because we're not doing that with you get what I'm going. We're not
Diablo,
doing that.
it's after 5, so let me pull you in a little bit so we don't
Yeah,
get in trouble.
pull me in.
But to my point, there are a lot of youth workers. We have, Nika is a parent, and she said it's after dark, so let's keep it real. There are a lot
Shout
of
out to Nika.
unsolicited, where you ain't been in this space, opinions that you ain't been in this community, you ain't worked. And then there's some that have been in space, and suggestions like the amount of young people staggering it. And so I'm sure there's going to be, if it hasn't already been, there'll be a debrief about this. One
Yeah.
of the other things that, and you volunteered it, I didn't ask, You text me and said, if anybody pull
Yeah.
up and can't get in. And so let's move to that point of resources. I
Yep.
do want to name that I think you and maybe others that you designate, because the piece about social media is my first inclination was I would have texted Bum and been like, yo, we need to do an after dark for parents and just give an update on, you know, what's going on in social media. So I think that this
Yep.
does not have to be a one and done. You know what I mean? To check in with community. We got summer plans getting ready to come out. We were in a meeting together today with the commission and understand that what, you know, what's going on nationally is eventually going to have an impact. You talked about poverty. It displays itself in various ways. And so let's, as we get ready to wrap up, because we also want to name either that you expecting or are a new dad. And we want to be sensitive. It's 8:30 at night and we want your
Thank you.
happy wife. So, Nika also said that's what kids do, but not up to the community to provide safety where what she's, you know, talking about the safety piece. And so hopefully, Nika, you heard that multiple situations happen. At some point, we whatever you designate and the administration does publicly between a Roy shop, you know, some of the chatter also was around street workers. And so let's go to resources. How are parents and young people who got off at Roxbury Crossing, who were on their way and couldn't go, are there other events planned? Is there virtual space? And we got it, Dr. Yablo, you ain't been on in a while, but if you got a link, there's a private chat to your right. And if you want cut and paste, I can display it. Or if anybody's on from the city and wants to put links in, are there links? Are there more events? Where can people who could not take advantage of Saturday? And let's just pause for a minute. We're talking about the incident. Were there any successes on Saturday?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, it was a long day. A lot of kids were able to get connected to employers that they will be working with in the summer. I don't have an exact number. I did talk to Trin about it. But I think it was right around 2,000 youth that were got to sign up, which is like great.
Wait, that attended or got signed up for next step?
No, that got signed up. That got signed up altogether.
For jobs?
Not necessarily at the event, but as a part of the event in other outreach efforts. But there's a lot of youth that were connected to the employers, and I do want to add this other piece too, because there's another good brother who's just doing amazing work in the community. Again, there's so many people that I could name, but in thinking about this specific event, Lawrence Justice, aka Kobe, Coach Kobe from Building Brothers, he was there and he's offering services to his population, which is close to my population, right? We work with an identical population, that persistent proven risk population, right, amongst young people. And his presence there, he was able to deter his group of people from getting involved, right? And when we're typically pointing the finger, it's typically that population that is involved, and he was able to keep them in pocket, if you will. And so I just want to give Kobe a shout out for that, because that was amazing. But yes, there are follow-ups. This was not the only scheduled event. There are other events currently being scheduled, and there are ones that have been scheduled. So the 9th, the 10th, the 16th, and the 17th.
Hold on. I was trying to get it before you got started because you sent it in one thing. And okay, so I think we got it right. East Boston High School, April 9th. Is that a Saturday? You're doing it during.
I don't know what day that is.
April.
Yeah, they're all during school. They're all during school hours, with the goal of getting to the youth while they're there. Yep.
All right. So if you have a high school at East Boston, that's April 9th.
Yeah.
Then Charlestown is April 17th during school hours, 10 a.m. to 12:30. And then at Madison Park High on April 10th. All right, now I'm aggravated because it's not in chronological order. Madison Park High School on April 10th. Okay, April 10th and 16th is still not April 10th and 16th from 9 to 11 a.m. Okay, so these are at the high schools. If these students don't go to these three high schools, is there a link? Is there another? I don't think. Is there another event like the one at the or there many?
So there's many ones coming, right? And so what they did last year was they did pop-ups at BCYF. So right now we're currently finalizing some of the pop-up sites that they're going to have. They're also in conversation, and again, this is not my team. This is youth engagement, no, youth employment and opportunity (YEO).
Yeah.
They're also in conversation with local colleges and universities to see engage their appetite to also host spaces there. So there are future events planned, as I said, and then there's more to come. Likely do one in the bowling building.
Okay.
Shout out to Corey McCarthy, the chief of student support from BPS, because he's working now in tandem with YEO to ensure that, in addition to the three high schools that we just mentioned, that we're also stopping by other school-based spaces and then community spaces as well.
Uh, Mama Java, is this announced? I'm sure, Ma, they have flyer. My mother's asking.
Yes, and if it's not, we'll make sure that it is.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Mackey, they both are Wednesdays and Thursday next week's and the week after. Thank you, Commissioner, for that. Community support is encouraged as well. And so exposure is success, and it was a large turnout. And so there, I'm trying to do better at the balance. We address the elephant in the room, but we don't want to take away from the fact that 2,000 young people in one way or another got connected. Nika, her son, got connected as well. And so, because mother, you don't have no high school. I'm not going to pay attention. Ma, none of us are in high school. So, Dr. Yablo, I'm going to get ready to wrap up and let you go. And I think we got every Dr. Yablo. Once those young people have been properly dealt with, do you think they can be encouraged? I got some mothers in here. She said, once they've been dealt with, do you think that they can be encouraged to apologize? Hold on.
We love a good apology.
I mean, some of that old school stuff. Uncle Thaddeus is in the room. That's why I love this dude. You mentioned you worked at Mass Housing.
Shout
He
out to
keeps
that
it
good
real,
brother. Yeah.
truth and vision and knowledge. And so thank you, Uncle Thaddeus, for that. Charlene, who you remember sometime was at City Hall. It sure doesn't help that it was election season either. Everyone commented it. So some of the comments I don't look at before, like, I'll finish it. Everyone commenting and framing around what happened versus the side effects was just presented really sad. So you know what I mean. There's a whole lot in here. I'm sure, Dr. Yablo, you'll go back tomorrow or at some point, not tonight, and look at the comments. There's opinions, there's suggestions as well. But I want to thank you for coming in tonight to chat with us, because people have one thing folk would think I know. When you go to the homicide scenes and families like that, there is direct service. But generally on the prevention end, if a parent or whatever, where do you suggest they go? It may not be a city entity, but is there?
What we can do, and this is actually something I'm working on with my team, because there is prevention entities that we have access to. I think the largest in entity that's focused on deep prevention would be youth engagement and advancement, right? So Pedro, I encourage everyone to look up Oh Yeah and the work that they do, because they have a network of, I think it's like over 10,000 partners within the city that they all have access to resources. There's also under the Human Services Cabinet led by Chief Masso, the Youth Development Fund, where there's funds given to community-based organizations with the goal of connecting with the youth that we as a city want to
So
prioritize.
he did earlier in today's meeting talk about the grants that were given out. So this is an opportunity. It is actually hyperlinked in the comments, everyone. This is the youth engagement and advance. And I think that when they get ready to drop the announcement for the community grants, this is the website where people can go and also get signed up for BCYF centers too, right? Well, youth
Yeah,
engagement.
well, BCYF is also it's under Commissioner Rivera,
Right,
but
right,
it's
right,
all
right.
under human services, all under human services, all the same family. And to be honest, you can come to me and we'll get you connected to anyone. I like to say, like, I have to be able to be accessible. So if folks come to me, I'll do my best to loop other people in as they see fit. And to answer, I think you asked the last question, like, do we offer direct resources ourselves? Yes, but in a very limited capacity. right? And I also say to folk, like, it's not a good thing to work with me. You know, I know I have beautiful chocolate skin, but it's not a good thing to work with me. I don't think that, you
Yep.
know, right, like making it very clear, like I work with a specific population that I try not to talk much about, but I also like make it very clear if your young person is on the right path, keep them as far away
You
from
don't.
me as possible because
Can you keep it 100? The
yeah,
Kowalski funeral directors and all that. I'm like, yep, ain't seen you in 6-9 months. I don't want to see you in another 2 years. You don't
and
want
that's
your
great.
child to have to be at a point where you're getting direct services from Dr. Yablo. So I
Right.
would say that the youth engagement is one. Now, you know this as much as I do. Some of our young people are not at that youth engagement BCYF level
Yeah.
anymore.
Yep.
Is that a you? Is it an intermediary?
That's a me, right? Like I do everything from prevention, intervention to recovery and community reinvestment. But I think the way that I describe it is the concept of that we talked about before, like pre-persistent proven risk.
Yep.
Persistent proven risk and then proven risk, right? Like proven risk, like as defined by law enforcement, this individual, it's proven that they have been violent. So absolutely that's who I prioritize with the goal of removing them from being exposed to violence, right? In the event that we have an individual, and Pam, shout out to you, we will meet soon. In the event that we have an individual that is a little bit too cool for the BCYF, but is definitely not playing with those things.
The tier two, what me and Dr. Falk
The,
used to call the
yeah,
thing,
the tier two, the gray area young person, as I call it, right?
one
Like
incident
that
away.
young person, that's who I want. I'm also focusing on them now because to credit Roy, if we focus all of our energy on individuals that are directly involved in this stuff and the rest of our energy on individuals that are not at all going to be involved, we miss out on the vast majority of the young people that grow up in the city of Boston and really any major city in the country. The kids that are going to dibble and dabble between the ages of 12 to 17. That does not mean that they are criminals. That does not mean that we need to describe them as criminals. That means that they are, it's regular adolescent juvenile behavior, right? And that's where the pre-persistent proven risk comes in. It's pre-persistent, it's not persistent. But in the event that an individual is continuously involved in stuff,
Mhm.
that's that
Consistent.
persistent proven
Yep.
risk.
Okay.
That's a different conversation.
Yep.
That's not Pedro anymore. So I like to say, violence prevention entities need to be with me until the point that it's documented that this individual is involved with the stuff. That's when you can peace out and I'll take over and go to deal with other people. But until we can document that kid is still violence prevention and you need to be working with them. That's how I feel about it, right? But I welcome people that disagree and I welcome the banter and the back and forth because at the end of the day what I'm saying is not a fact. I just have a lens based on the seat I'm in. James, you have a different lens. Milton has a lens. Kobe has a lens. Brother Mackey has a lens. Pam we all have a lens. So we have to just understand that everyone brings value.
Absolutely. And also, I wanted to mention we got, and I don't know if you know her, and there's a partnership going on somewhere, but she's also a mom. We have Dina that we need to figure out how to get her some, not that her son's not in the risk of so much the violence, but I can connect you as well because she's out here hustling. We got adaptive aquatics going on with BCYF for those that are on the spectrum, but she's also a parent that's advocating, for her son as well. And so, Dr. Yablo, I'm tired, and that's an indicator.
Last thing
I got
before
a
you
couple of
leave.
things too, because there's one.
Okay.
Um, my tell him they forget that I'm not nephew Jimmy when I'm on here, but tell him my daughter is looking for an internship in public safety. She's currently an undergrad at Norfolk State University. She's doing well because her mama don't play. So I'll connect you with her. Also, the last
I would
thing.
love that.
Yeah.
I
And
would love
also,
that. I was just gonna say, but it's still Howard Strong, but shout out to Norfolk State anyway.
All right, we're not going to get into the whole HBCU thing. And then yes, Keyshawn, though, got a job. So, Nika, I'll make sure you get connected with Dr. Yablo. And if he doesn't have it, he can make a reference. Dina did clarify for me that sometimes her son has had some behavior. So I'll make sure you two get connected as well. But I wanted to thank you. I don't see a whole bunch of questions. The department of great department and opportunities for youth serving organizations. And so we have some compliments as well as Dr. For Pedro and Trends department as well. And so Dr. Yablo, I'll let you go. It's 8:44. We're 14 minutes over.
Last thing, James, catch me on social media at Boston Community Safety on Instagram.
Hold on. We're going to do it right now at Boston Community. We do this in real time. Safety on Instagram.
Yep.
And that's it. Just on Instagram.
On Instagram, that's where we share all of our updates, and we do have a few things coming up to roll out and prepare for the summer. So if you all want to see me in person, Village Vibes is an event that we're rolling out. It's a series of events, rather. We're coming all across the city with resource fairs, free food, entertainment, just to communicate about what we will have offered during the summer. Because we know one of the gaps is that oftentimes folks find out too late. Go sign up for things, everything is filled. So we're just doing our due diligence to make sure that folks hear about the things before they become available. So we're in Dorchester, and James, we can share it later on, but we're in Dorchester, Mattapan, Roxbury, Southie, Hyde Park, JP, Eastie, in Charlestown, in that order. Starting next week, on the 8th, we're at Town Field, from 3 to 6 p.m. Probably go until 7, but 3 to 7. Come out, free food, and just hear about what the city will have to offer.
And Brother DL said, how old are we? Why can't we go till 9 p.m.? We're not going till 9 p.m., Brother DL. Ruth Nitz is also on from Mass Coalition Against Gun Violence. She says hello as well. And so we'll share the information, Nika. Dr. Yablo, thank you. We got everything covered. And I think that's it. And platform is here. And at some point you let me know who we should talk to give parents an update about, what's going on social media. I remember some years ago, Chris Miner did the thing of, if you see a green hat, and I don't know if it's at that point anymore, but whatever you think the community needs to know, where they can't find it on IG and there needs to be a conversation, the platform is here and available. So I appreciate you coming in.
Appreciate you.
48 hours notice at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday night.
We're here for it.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate Dr. Yablo. Thank you.
Yeah.
So folks, please, if you are a parent, if there's a young person, thank you, Miss Teresa. Good to see you in the room. Please go follow Instagram, Boston Community Safety. Kevin, good to see Kevin in the room from Senator Miranda's office, that does some work. She just advocated today for, I seen something, for the voters, those who, have been in some of the activity that Dr. Yablo and I were talking about, and they're giving their just to back to society. They still deserve the right to vote. So Senator Miranda was testifying today about that. So Kev, good to see you in the room. That is it for me, everyone. We're going to get ready to go. Tomorrow morning, we'll have a little bit of this conversation. In our conversation, Mayor Wu will be with us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And don't forget, and I didn't see a Real Boston Media or New in the room, so I can put this up because they were acting up this morning. Biani Sakar, I was saying Sunkar, I think it's Sakar, from ABCD's tax prep program. Now, you will notice that says After Dark. That was the original. She will be with us at 9:30. The mayor will be with us at 9 a.m. and Biani will be with us at 9:30. It is tax season, and it is important that you understand and know that there are programs. There's a whole coalition. The mayor's going to talk a little bit about it. Biani's going to talk a little bit or more about it tomorrow. So don't forget Mayor Wu at 9 a.m. and ABCD free tax prep program. Also, brothers that are interested in bowling, Yard Time Entertainment is in the process of starting a men's bowling league that will start on April 21st. Also, I think that's it. So tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., bowling league on April 21st. And we'll get some other dates out to you. We have the Red Cup Awards that are coming in June. That's it. Thank all of you for joining this evening. And we will see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Have a great evening. Share this information. As Dr. Yablo said, if you hear some narratives out there about our young people that are not true, combat them. Okay? We'll talk.